For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Do we understand why we really get married? Let's talk about it. Welcome to We Are Your Aunties. Let's go.
Hey, Auntie. Hey, Auntie.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Great morning. This is going to be a really good one. I'm so super excited for it. I am Paige Means Hopper, better known to some as Auntie Paige, especially my nieces and nephews with their beautiful selves. And I want to tell you that I'm here with my girls this morning, Auntie Janelle and Auntie Rose.
Good morning.
How are y'all doing? You doing good?
Oh, I'm doing good. You guys are looking great.
Thank you. Everybody's looking so pretty today. So listen, I am hyped about this topic because this is a topic that there's so much confusion about, and there's so many different opinions of how this should all be done. We're talking about courting versus dating. But before we get into that, I want to remind you to click like, subscribe, and ring that bell, that notification bell, so you know every time we go live and every time we post up a brand new video. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's talk about it, shall we? Let's just jump right on in here. Let's jump right on in. So, Mr. Hopper and I, we go all throughout California community colleges and universities, and we talk about courting versus dating in the context of Black male-female relationships. And so the first thing I want to do is distinguish for us what I'm saying when I say courting, what I'm talking about when I say dating within this context. Now, if you go look it up in the dictionary and go do all those things, you might come up with something different. But I know what works for this conversation is the definition I'm about to give you. You ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
So, dating is having fun. Dating is getting to know people. It's going out with people that you already know, people you're hoping to get to know. To me, dating happens in groups, not one-on-one. Not one-on-one. Dating is for the purpose of really just kicking it. It's not even really like a serious purpose to it. Courting, on the other hand, is once you've gotten through dating, going out with groups, going to certain, bowling alleys or restaurants or wherever you decide to go, concerts, movies. It's after you've dated a few times in those groups, and there are two people who are now attracted to each other. They decide to take it a step further. So then they begin to court. Now, courting does have a definite purpose. It's for vetting. It's for going a little more deeply. It's for getting to know exactly who that person is, who their family is, what their background is, their values, their belief systems, all the things, to see if it's really, really, really a match at its core value roots, right?
Yes.
Now, we have a list, and I might post that, but we have a list of over 200 questions that you can ask each other as you're courting, to kind of decide, is this somebody that is a morning person or an evening person? How do they act in their community? Do they, do community service? Are they interested in that? Their hygiene, all the things, from their community to their personal, to their family, all the things. So that's just a brief description of courting versus dating. So that's our context and foundation for where we're going today. I am so excited to hear from you two ladies. You have no idea. So
I'm excited too.
Yeah. So now here's where I want us to springboard from. There is a list that has gone viral. A lot of us have already heard about it. Some may not have. But it's a little confusion from the ladies out here about what should and should not happen on a first date, where you should and should not be taken on a first date. right? And then the men retaliated with their own list, and we'll get into the list a little bit later about, okay, then if y'all are going to say we can't take you to Applebee's on the first date, then we don't want to date women with tattoos. Then it's just a big, but the focus is on the wrong things. It's the surface thing. So I'm going to ask DY to play this video. Let me give it a little bit of background. Based on this list, this girl goes on a date with this guy, and she belittles him for one reason or another. He comes home and he tells his mother about it, and he shows her the list, and this is what she had to say.
And him about the first restaurant he gonna take you to. What's the last restaurant your daddy took you to? Because you shouldn't be coming to him to be your daddy. That's not his role. It's a first date. I want y'all to bring that down to level 3. Y'all way on 10 with this foolishness and want to embarrass somebody. My second question is, have you ever been anywhere? Where do you take yourself? Let me see your checkbook registry. Let me log into your bank account and see what you feed yourself on a regular basis. Where do you take yourself for lunch or dinner? That's the next question I want you to answer. And then the third thing about this, come on back over here, because I need you to understand what time it is. A real lady is going to be there for the purpose of what it's for. She's not looking for food because she's hungry that she can't afford so she can take it to go and get a doggy bag. I'm going to wrap this up to go. Why? You ain't going to have food tomorrow? That's a poverty mindset. So a first date, again, is to get to know the person, to hang out, have fun. Y'all should be laughing and talking. It don't need to be a steakhouse. We don't even know if you worth a steak. You might just be worth a piece of bread. So ladies, young ladies, grow up. Get some maturity about yourself. Y'all buying titties, lashes, booties, and everything else, and you want somebody else to feed you. Save your money, stop buying your body, and put it to the side so you can have some food. That's not a man's responsibility. Now, once you dating a man, and once he get to know you, and y'all vibing, and he want to take you to a nice restaurant, guess what that means? You well deserving of that. He think enough about you to make a reservation. But some of you don't have reservations about your mouth. You talk bad, you disrespectful, you ghetto, you trifling, you don't have an income that substantiates what you want this man to do. You don't reserve being lazy. You full out lazy. You have no reservations on that. But you want the men to make a reservation for a restaurant, but you don't reserve what's between your legs. You passing it out like candy. You rated E for everybody.
Oh my God, righty.
Mama went there. It was very passionate. Very passionate.
And she was right about so many things. Now, the only thing that we kind of parted agreement on was when she said, once you start dating, then you can, I say once you start courting.
Yes.
Because now this is key. I think that, I know from experience and from what we've been doing in these workshops all these years, right? I know for a fact that most people get together because they met at a bar, they met at the grocery store, they met somewhere, they had a physical attraction, they did the do, and now the woman's expectations are, well, I gave it up, so now we're together, dude. We're together. And they don't know anything about each other.
Right.
But what's powerful to me, and then I'm going to give up the mic. What's powerful to me about that, what that woman did, what that mother did, is that she demonstrated another thing that I know for sure works. And that's his village got involved. A lot of times when people meet like that in the grocery store, at the bar and whatnot, they go off and they start having a little relationship without anybody being involved in what's happening. No eyes on the situation. Right. And nobody knows that woman as well as those who have been in her circle her whole life, and vice versa for the man. And people, yes, the common vernacular is situationship. I call it disaster. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. It's all the same to me. Yeah. So thanks for that, Ricardo. All right, ladies. Well, just jump right in and tell me what you think about what's going on out here in this world.
I think that going in for hers, she was making sure that whoever the young lady, because she said, you come back over here and get in this camera now, because she wanted them to see who he was. So they already knew, oh, his mama ain't playing.
She ain't playing. And with anybody else who might try to come up in there.
Ain't no nonsense. But when she said you reserve what's between, because when a woman gives up that's everything.
Right.
Ain't nothing else.
Nothing left.
And emotions is tied to that, because you do expect to, your mind, that's it, you better not, then the demands, that's of a younger person that has not had a courtship. So it makes a difference because an old saying that my grandmother used to say, live long enough, because you can walk in a room and my grandmother say, okay, don't leave him alone. Grandma, wait.
They know.
Leave him alone.
Mm-hmm. Auntie knows too. And you know what? I have 4 brothers. One of my brothers passed away, but before he did, like my brothers will bring the woman to me because they know I have discernment and they know that I love them. Yes. And I can look at her one time and go, she's not the one. Yeah, give her a chance, but let's keep an eye on her. We do have that perception. Yes. And so that's why it's important to get the village involved. Now, what I do want to say about that, though, is you have to make sure you have the right person involved. Now, and before we even go into that, I'm going to go back to a point that Auntie Rose just made. Once you give up, we'll call it the cookie. Once you give up the cookie, what's left? Especially if you give it up first, like that first so-called date. There's nothing else. Now, where do you have to go from there? Because you've given up the best part of yourself. Make sure you vet them for me too, cousin. That's right. That's right. They know I know. So anyway, but that's, where do you have to go from there? Yeah. Marriage is sacred.
Yes.
And that's what courtship is for. Now, oh my God, that's so powerful, Ricardo Love. Absolutely. Soul ties are real.
Yes, it is.
Now, I'm just going to take a little rabbit trail, talk about soul ties just a little bit, because the important thing to know about soul ties is that they work both ways. And once you give up the cookie, now you have exchanged your cookie with every other person that person has ever dated or slept with. Had sex with, let's just break it down. Had sex with, you've had sex with everybody they've had sex with, not only physiologically and physically, but also psychologically and spiritually through soul ties. So that's what he means by that, I think. If I'm wrong, you come back and tell me, Ricardo. But yeah, so I want to go into what dating, courting, and marriage is really all about. You know what came to me before we came in here is the issue of abortion. Let me tell you why it came up. It's because Black people, I'll say Black people in the diaspora, but I always want to bring it back to us, right? Black Americans have the highest rate of abortions than anybody else in this country, especially our white counterparts, because there is a lot of frivolous just sleeping around and dating around that leads to pregnancy. And then people are just able to just wipe that life clean just like that. So that's what came up for me. That's another soul tie. It's to that baby that was in that woman's womb. And I call it a baby. I don't call it an embryo or a fetus. That's what scientists call it, to prevent, and tissue and blood, right? That's what they used to tell us, because it distances them from the responsibility of what's really happening. You're killing a child. You're killing a baby. So that's a whole other show. We're going to do that one too. But here is the order of things. It's dating. And that should, in my opinion, especially with young people between, I don't know, the ages of 18, because you really shouldn't be dating before then, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
At least 16, and then it's still in groups.
Right.
Yes.
That's for the purpose of, kind of getting your legs underneath you, discovering who you are, discovering who other people are, learning to socialize from behind your phone, from behind your iPad, come out into the real world and socialize. That's what the dating pool is for. And then courtship comes when you find that connection and you think, oh, this is somebody I really get along with. We have similar personalities, or you may have opposite personalities, but you just have other things in common. And then that goes into courtship, and that immediately, before courtship even starts, somebody from your village needs to have eyes on you, at least one person you really trust. And I say more, because the more perspectives, the better. Now, here's a caveat to that. Now, don't take offense if your name is Ray Ray, but don't go get Uncle Ray Ray, who just got out of the pen after 25 years, and ask him about your courtship. That's not the person. It's really not.
Right.
It's who has been in society, they see what's going on, they love you, and they have some good common sense. What say you, ladies?
What I like. Go ahead, Sister Rose. Go ahead, Auntie Rose. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? When you brought up, and I don't want to go off a tad, but when you brought up the abortion, that is, and when you say the highest rate of abortion among us, it's because, and I just feel like what came to me is the love. We don't, with the pressures of society and all we've been through, and again with the slavery, we're still seeking that validation. And I think we move too fast, and that's why. And then we get into the abortions, because that is not what we want. But it's ultimately the love. But what I just
the lack of,
But and it's from slavery. I just feel that. But I just want to say that the scene in The Godfather is a perfect scene where Michael and his wife from Italy is walking with all of the people in the family, and they're just ahead of them, and they and all they can do is gesture, because he gave her a necklace and she's like, oh, I love it.
Right.
But they're getting to know. He gave the father and the family respect, and that's how it should go. That's how it should be, in my opinion.
Right. So she's talking about Michael Corleone and how he went to Italy and he found a woman that he really was in love with. And so we see in the camera the two people walking, he and his little courtship person, his little date. And then the camera opens up and we see the entire family walking behind them. And that is a beautiful picture. That's the perfect picture of what we're talking about. And it's not to have people in your business. That's not what it is. It's to really have people make sure that this is a good fit for you. And so I know that both of the ladies and I have some things that we want to say about this topic. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for our beautiful, powerful Auntie Genoa and Genoa's Gems.
Hey, good morning. I'll just to tell on the last topic that they were talking about. What I liked when she talked about dating in groups. When you're in a group, it'll keep you safe, both the male and the female, from extra stuff. While you're getting to know each other. Now, my topic is marriage versus the wedding. And I really didn't know what I wanted to share with y'all, but I decided to start with me. Now, growing up, I grew up in the 70s, and we all had a steady diet of fairy tales and romantic movies and books, building up to the climatic end. You guessed it, the wedding. Okay, a happy and beautiful bride, the handsome groom, the family's all in festive array of fairy tale proportions, the colors, the lights and everything. The maid of honor, the groomsmen, the bridesmaid, the best man, and the vows. And let's not forget the exchange of the rings. And then the after party. Everything lovely and perfect. But we all know life don't look like that. I got married in my hometown of Kalamazoo. and we went to the Justice of the Peace. In the wintertime, I was pregnant. There was no beautiful dress, nor did my husband have on a tux. The ring was a $15 ring from Myers, and the ceremony cost $10. And there was no after party, no dinner celebration. And we had one witness with us that was in the process of his own breakup. He cried when we did our vows. You know what his advice was to us? Be good to each other. The wedding is just a commemoration of one day, but the marriage is a lifetime lived together for better, for worse, rich or poor, in sickness or in health, forsaking all others till death do you part. It's not to be entered into lightly, as anyone that's officiating the wedding ceremony will tell you. It's a partnership of great proportions that will either lift you or cause you to fall, depending on if you look beyond the physical attributes when you came together. Your life is now tied with this person. According to Matthew 19:6 and Mark 10:9 in the Bible, it tells us what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And it's God's deal. It's God created marriage. He created marriage. Although many others have claimed otherwise. Marriage between the man and the woman represents Jesus' marriages to the church. And for this cause shall a man leave father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh, which is found in the beginning, the first book of the Bible, Genesis 2:24. Now, God put it in 3 other scriptures in the New Testament, just so you know. And you can't say you don't know, because I just told you, right? This is the covenant that God upholds because it is his and not mankind's. Let me tell you a secret, fellows. If you don't treat your spouse well, your prayers will be hindered. You won't be able to, you won't be able to. I'm just going to tell you. So when you're looking for someone to build a life with, look beyond the wedding day. And to the life, which is the marriage, because after you say I did on one day, then you have the rest of whatever's coming after. And so if your relationship isn't what you wanted, wasn't like you felt you wanted it to be beforehand, it becomes even more so after you say that. I was looking for a video because there was this man that was taking care of his wife. They started out good and everything, and she fell ill, and so he had to look to her day-to-day living things, and she was sitting in the back seat of the car, and he was playing some music, he was driving, and he had the video on, and she was literally in tears because she was asking him. She couldn't hardly talk that good, but she said, do you still want me? Because she was feeling, there she's not where she was when they got married. And he looked at her like, what? Of course I still want you. I want you. I love you. She was smiling and everything, but I can really, really feel that. Because when you marry someone, when you come in covenant with someone, you might start out strong, but you don't know how you're going to end up. You don't know if you're going to be the caregiver or the one needing care. You don't know if you guys going to have to struggle and be hungry. You don't know what's going to go on with your family, but you have to know that you're gonna be there for each other. What say you, ladies?
Oh my goodness!
That is a beautiful thing. That was the perfect picture, and I love that picture that you painted for us of the couple, because you're right. That's why the covenant, the marriage covenant, is so important. People say it, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, forsaking all others till death do us part. But they don't think about if that person ends up in a bad accident in a wheelchair, and you got to now, wipe their butt and take them to all these appointments and be there for them 100%. We just don't know. I was in a really, really, really bad car accident in 2006, and it broke my pelvis in several places, which means I didn't walk for a whole summer. And watch this, because I knew who my husband is and was, I didn't have a care in the world. I didn't have a worry in the world because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was going to take care of me. How did I know that? Because when we first got together, we spent more time talking and understanding each other's families, background, values, belief systems, all of that before we even kissed, much less, we didn't do anything till we got married, but we didn't have sex till we were married. Let's just break it down. But I mean, I would not have known that if we had jumped to the act first.
Yes.
Because, once you do that, now you've got the soul ties. You've got a lot going on in your mental about this person. And it just makes it a whole other reality. Same thing would have happened for him if it had been him in the car accident. He knows he can depend on me. I know he'll never cheat. Yes, I know he'll never cheat. Why? Because when we first got together, we talked about all of that. We talked about past relationships and how, that kind of thing affected us and all of that. So it's not because I'm perfect or because he's perfect, but we're made perfectly for one another.
Yes.
And how would we know that if we had not vetted each other first? And that's what's missing. So that was beautiful, Auntie Genoa. I loved it.
Yes, it was. I really enjoyed that. And then, the picture that you painted that was passionate about your wedding, the whole thing, what that looked like, what that entails. It was, and then even to the best man or the witness saying, love each other, because, when it boils down to it, love, is what kept her Paige's husband taking care of her. He loved her and she knew that. And the same thing with me, but I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into the whole thing because I have a lot to say about me and my husband.
Well, then let's just go right on and talk about it as we go into Rose's Gold.
Yes, indeed. My husband and I, we've been married over 20 something years. And when we met, actually, he was looking for a wife in church. Well, we didn't meet in church. We met on a set, a Hollywood movie set, the set. And that's where we met. As a matter of fact, it was a movie where there was a lot of extras and we were part of that. And what they did was after doing so many scenes, they wrapped all the women. They said, we're going to keep all the women. We're going to wrap all the women and we're going to just keep one woman and that's you. And they pointed to me. I'm like, oh, about to get a bump. But I ended up talking with a few guys. We were playing cards and my husband was there, my future husband was there, and he walked me to my car. I just thought he was such a gentleman. But I'm going to go into when you're planning a wedding. And the furthest thing from your mind when you're planning a wedding is it may end in divorce. Because you're so busy focusing on flowers and the invitations, the catering, the bridesmaids' dresses, and different things like that. And you know what? I'm going to talk about this study that I looked up. And, according to a recent study, and I'm going to get to that, who was responsible for that, the bill of your wedding may be in correlation to likelihood of when you walk down the aisle, that you may not end in a happily ever after. Because if you spend large enough of money on your wedding, you may not allow yourself to refocus on your marriage, meaning that your nuptials is like, where are the dollars? That's what you're focusing on. So a recent study discovered that in association between the amount spent on a wedding and engagement ring and a divorce is like in 3 different sections. So they put a study on 3,000 couples and they found out that there's an inverse relationship between money spent on an engagement ring and a wedding ceremony. And doing that, In America, it costs an engagement ring. In America, the average cost of an engagement ring is like $6,000, while a cost of an average wedding, I don't want to say average, but it's around $33,000. So the men in the study, they paid like $2,000 to between $4,000 on an engagement ring, and had a 1.3 times higher chance of divorce, according to this study, compared to their counterparts who only spent between $500 and $2,000. Meanwhile, couples who spent less than $1,000 on their wedding had a significant decrease in their chance of divorce, as they were 53% less likely to find themselves divorcing in comparison to the couple who spent between $5,000 and $10,000. So you know what? And the reason why I was looking at that, this study, because they said, in the first year, if you spend so much money focusing on the showy, let's put on this show for others, then you have a hard time in that first year, because all of your money went towards this wedding, these bills that you have to do. And the first thing people argue about is bills. And you have a hard time making ends meet when you're still paying wedding bills. That's why people like to give paper, which they call, money, as a gift for the first year of marriage, because, you're going to need that. So when you spend all of this money for others and not for each other, that's the reason why I agree so much with the other aunties is, you have that love and you have that interview. Me and my husband I interviewed him. But first, I prayed for him. The first thing I did was pray for him. I wrote a letter with my expectations, and I gave it to God. And I said, this is what I want in a husband. And when we met, I interviewed him. I wanted to know what your goals were. I wanted to know who you were. I wanted to know, are you God-fearing? I wanted to know all of that, because I needed to, for myself, I was not going to be with a person that did not agree with what I wanted to do with my life, or was he supportive in that? So, and turns out with all these years, he is, and I am too. And that's the first thing you want to make sure. The man, especially a Black man in this world, have a hard time, not to say others don't, but we have a hard time, and we must support our men. We must support him. So I wanted to go into longevity, because I did a lot of research about couples that have been married like 50 years, 60 years. I had one couple, 82 years. And the short term and the longevity of their relationships, they just gave like powerful words of how to stay together and what not to do if you don't want to just be a temporary thing. Who wants to spend all of that money and then you're divorced in 6 months? So it was all about the show and not the substance and the commitment. And that is one of the things that one of the couples was saying. And they said commitment, love. You must be prayed up, and you must be willing to support and do what it needs. Sometimes people just need a hug at the time. They don't need your argument. They need a hug when the world has beat them down on their shoulders. And they need a embrace. They need that. And you can't be selfish. You got to think about us, we. You can't say I, me, I need this. This is what a lot of people are doing these days, and that's the difference between dating and courtship. Amen. You got to say I love you. The loyalty. You got to cook. You got to cook, and that's men too. You got to laugh, and I mean from the gut. And you have to encourage. And those are some of the things that will keep a marriage for longevity. And when you don't do those things, people look elsewhere for it. They will.
That's beautiful. Let me tell you that as you were going through your list of things, that you must do. You must, really care about the other person. You must compromise. You must be committed. I think about that compared to this list that's going around, this viral list, and it's just completely a departure. A complete departure. It's thinking about and talking about and focusing on all the wrong things. Everything that has absolutely nothing to do. Auntie Genoa said, cooking is a game changer. That's right. That's right. I say, you don't even cook for the person until they've proven that they're cook worthy. That's how I feel about it. Because cooking is an act of true love. Can we bring the music down just in case? And I wanted to bring up that list, by the way. So DY, let's bring up the first list, the list that the ladies made. So this is the so-called modern woman. So we've got the modern woman and the high value man. These are terms that they're using out there right now, right? And so here's a list of places women absolutely refuse to go on a first date to. And thank you to the ladies who reached out to me to help me on my list. Now, they don't want to be taken to the Cheesecake Factory on a first date. They don't want to be taken to Applebee's or Chili's, Chipotle, Olive Garden. They don't want to go to the movies. They don't want to go to your house. I agree with that one. Yeah. They don't want to go to any fast food chain. What if that's all the brother can afford and he's amazing and he becomes a millionaire later? I mean, there's just all these factors. They don't want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings or Wingstop or Red Lobster. They don't want to go to a buffet, IHOP, Denny's, the gym. I think the gym is a great date.
Yes.
Take me to go get in shape. And now this one is really odd to me, but I get it. Church. A lot of people met in church and they were married for 50 years. And I'm not talking about like a loveless marriage. I mean like a strong, steadfast, foundational, value and belief foundational marriage. They don't want to go to Starbucks. I wouldn't go either. I don't like Starbucks. Sorry.
Me neither.
But a coffee date is fine, especially at a nice cafe, where you've got room to like sit in the corner and just chat with others. Because again, if this is a date, not courtship, then others should be there watching over. Ice cream dates. Who wouldn't want to go have ice cream? Especially if you go to Fenton's in Oakland.
Talking about fitness, lady.
Family functions. Okay, it might be a little early. It might be early for a family function. That comes with courtship, right? Yes. And then movie night. No Netflix and chill. Movie night at the house. No. A movie, at a movie house is fine. A theater is fine. Somewhere that requires a long drive. Yeah, that's suspect. If the brother wants to take you on a long drive, if the sister wants to take you on a long drive, I would be suspect of that. That sounds like kidnapping to me.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Bowling is cool. Bowling is a great time. You've got lots of people around.
Yes.
You can have more than one or two other people with you. You all can have a great time. A hookah bar, a nightclub. No, nightclub is, for me, that's not the place to go. The last time I went to a nightclub, I remember I just I had my back against the wall and I was looking around and my mind and my soul just opened up to what I was really seeing. And the people's eyes were just vacant and they were shrunk and they were just, oblivious to what was going on around them. That's like a recipe for disaster. But if you meet somebody in a nightclub and they're nice, I guess that's cool. But they don't want to go to a nightclub, and I wouldn't either. A hookah bar, I don't smoke, and I don't want anybody smoking my hair or my clothes. A bar just for drinks. That's not a good idea. Because if you're drinking alcohol and you're not having food, that could absolutely lead to disaster. They don't want to go to a Waffle House or maybe Waffle House restaurant. I like waffles. I don't know what's wrong with them. And then sports events. Why not?
Exactly.
So this list is absolutely ludicrous, in my opinion. I wouldn't want to go on the long drive. I wouldn't go to his house on the first date. That can lead to trouble, date rape, and everything else. Let's just be honest about it, right? But Jacqueline is also agreeing with me. She says the majority of that list is ridiculous. I spoke to someone who has planned a first date to go for a long walk followed by lunch just to get to know each other. That's an amazing first date or a lead into courtship. It's great. I mean, what's wrong with that? And then Jamel says that his parents met at church. Now look at that. And they raised an amazing child and stayed together until his father passed away. Let's bring up the retaliatory list. The list that the men retaliated with. Now, we're talking about probably 20s and 30s, like, you know, about that age. Hi, Barbie, Arlene. So this is the men's list. So they said, well, if y'all don't want us to take you on dates here and dates there, then these are the types of women that men should not take on a date. Single mothers, women with a lot of tattoos, women who dress provocatively.
That's a lot of them.
A sex worker, Instagram models, or bottle girls. You know who bottle girls are, escorts. They're the ones who bring you the bottles in the club, and sometimes they end up like sleeping with a lot of men. I mean, I've just heard that. I don't know. Women with large social media followings. Women with purple hair. Wow, really? Purple's my favorite color. Women with promiscuous friends. Women who travel alone regularly. That's interesting. Women that drink a lot. Yeah, I agree. Women without fathers. That is really an interesting concept right there.
It is.
Women who party every weekend. Yeah, where are your priorities? Women previously married. Wow, that's deep. Plus size, unhealthy women. Now, they're not saying they don't like a plus size sister, but they're saying they don't want a plus size, unhealthy sister. Women on dating apps. Yeah, because I mean, you could pretend to be anyone on a dating app. We've heard lots of horror stories around that. And divorcees. Now, here's what I want to challenge the 20s to 30s. Anyone from 18 to 30-ish. I want to put out a challenge to you. And I will put out that challenge when we go to Paige's pen.
Wow, just looking at that.
Okay, so we've seen two lists, and Carlove is saying that I think those lists don't reflect most women or men's opinions. It's another battle of the sexes video. Well, I have to disagree somewhat, only because if we watch what's happening in social media, if we watch what we're seeing, we are seeing a lot of what's on those lists in these relationships, and they don't always go well. But I was about to put out a challenge. My challenge is to anyone from 18 to 30-ish. We want to have you on the show. We want to bring you on the show, and we want to discuss these lists and more. We want to talk about courtship. We want to talk about dating. We want to get your opinions because, as Ricardo was saying, he doesn't think that the majority of people out here have that opinion. But I don't know. What I notice is that there's a lot of confusion in how to court, how to date, how to be together. There are so many people who are like begging for a mate. And then when they get the mate, if they happen to get a mate, they only have them for a short period of time. They don't know how to create longevity. And so that's what we want to talk to you about. We want to hear from you as well, because again, this is how we learn. It's one generation teaching the next, one generation learning from the next, whether it be a generation who's been on the planet longer, a generation who's been on the planet a short period of time. We want to definitely get to the bottom of these things. And so DY is going to put up a link in the comments, and you can go on that link and you can submit your name and your email to us, and we will contact you and get you on the show as a guest. And we absolutely need to do this because we need other perspectives and other opinions. We need to make sure that we widen our horizon and include people who normally wouldn't even come on a platform like this and expose, what they believe. So that said, I just want to remind us, if you're single and you want to be in a relationship that is long-term, the start of that is to get as much information about the person that you want to get involved with as possible. There's been a trend out here of polygamy, being with more than one person. And so if that's you, this conversation is not for you. But if you're looking for a monogamous, long-lasting, marital relationship, then let's not, as Jacqueline said earlier, let's not start with just the lust and the going after the cookie. There was one video, I don't know if we have it with us or not. DY, do we have that video of the older woman who was talking to the younger man? And she was telling him, if we don't have it, I'll tell you what happened on that video. And I would love for you to load it up if we don't have it loaded already. So there was a video of a young man. He's talking to an older woman and he's asking her advice as to how to talk to young ladies. Like, what do I do? How do I meet them? Because the truth is that social media does not allow young people or even older people to come face to face and socialize human to human anymore. Everything is done on social media. I was watching a young man and his mother on their video, and she was saying, what would you do if you were in a grocery store and you saw somebody that was really attractive and you wanted to get to know them better? Would you approach her? And if you did approach her, what would you say? And as much as he wanted to say he would approach her and say A, B, C, and D, he had to be honest with his mom and transparent. And he said, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say anything because I would be afraid that she's going to reject me. We know that fear of rejection is going to be there no matter whether you're online or not. But if you know how to socialize, you know how to ask questions and keep a conversation going. You know how to ask the right questions because, okay, let's give an example. When you're first getting to know someone, you're on a date, you're in a group, and you can have your own table and be off to the side. I'm not saying everybody has to be clumped together, but you're in a conversation and they start asking, well, what's your body count? That's a popular question right now. What's your body count? What does that mean? How many people have you had sex with? That's probably not an appropriate question for a first time around, for a first date. A more appropriate question would be, what do you expect when you get into a relationship? Where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your relationship with your mother. Tell me about your relationship, especially if it's a male. Tell me about your relationship with your mother. If it's a female, tell me about your relationship with your father. Because it doesn't disqualify a female, as that list indicated, because she didn't have her father around, because she may have grown strong as other examples came into her life, as other men took that role of, a father, at least a father figure in her life. Ask them if are they educated? Where'd you go to school? What's your major? Why did you enter that major? If you didn't go to school, why did you choose not to? What did you do instead? One of the popular questions is, what do you do and how much do you make? I mean, it is just like right out there. Who wants to get to know someone based on, you want to know my income? You want to know what I do for a living instead of knowing who I am. And so these are just things that I think are really very, very common that we don't need to indulge in anymore. Somebody says, what's their vetting and due diligence process? I think I pretty much stated it. Your vetting and due diligence process is, as I said, we have over 200 questions. And here's what I used to tell people, and I still believe it. I would date someone and ask them all these questions over the period of that dating process. Every last one of the questions. I wouldn't sit there with my list in one sitting and say, okay, where do you go? Who do you know? All of the people, who are your people? I wouldn't do that in one sitting, but over the course of a period of time. Here's the key. Why do people rush? What's the rush? If you're really in the dating and then courtship process for the right reasons and purposes, then there's no rush, because this could potentially be someone that you're in this relationship with for the long haul, meaning until the end of your life, until death do us part. So there is no rush, and don't let anyone rush you into the process because they're lusting, because they are so desperate for a relationship with you. If they're rushing, there's a reason. My mother used to always tell me, if you're in a negotiation, which this really is, it's a negotiation. I'll break that down in just a minute. But my mother used to always tell me, Paige, if someone is fast talking you, if someone is pushing you into a direction, if someone is trying to get you to do something really fast, you slow all the way down. You pull all the way back because they're trying to get you to do something that you may not necessarily want to do. And one of the things that's really important to think about is that this really is a type of negotiation. Do you know that people study more and longer about what kind of car they're going to buy than they do about the person who's going to be touching their body, touching their soul, having their children, building a life with? Did you know that people think about their career and what they're going to go to school for, or what job they're going to do, more so than this person who I would have to trust my life to? And so that's the vetting process. You take equally as much time asking the questions. It's like an interview. It really is. It's a long-term interview because a person can kind of hold their demons down underwater like air balloons underwater. They can hold their stuff, their skeletons in the closet and all that down for only so long. But over a period of time, pop, 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 the bubbles will start to come up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you're not in a rush. People want to know what you do in the process. They want to know, how do I vet? How do I do due diligence? It's not even so much how as what. What are you asking? Are you really taking in what they're saying? It may be an issue for somebody if the person snores. It could really be. It could be an issue for someone if the person coming into the relationship has an STD that they can't get rid of. It could be an issue for someone if that person has children. They don't want to be with someone who has children. They want to start fresh, and that's okay. It could be someone who doesn't mind loving someone else's children and will treat them exactly as they would their own. There is a term called love bombing. And what love bombing is exactly kind of what I described. You've got the right foot forward. You're saying all the right things. The person's asking their questions. You're saying all the right things. But there's going to come a point when they don't know what to say. They can only tell the truth. And they have to be transparent with you as you're being with them. And I love what Auntie Genoa always says, and I have repeated this over and over. She says, a lie can only stand until the truth shows up. A person can only withstand a vetting process as long as they can continue to lie. And the more they lie, it's like a snowball. One lie leads to another. And most of the time, they'll forget which lie they told to cover up the last lie they told. And so they'll get tangled up in their own web. And so, that's why it takes time. You just let them tangle themselves up in their own web. On the positive, amazing side of this conversation is that once two people really vet each other, they become friends, as opposed to just, this is somebody I want to get into their pants. They become friends. When I met my husband, we literally sat down and had Bible study together. Now, no matter what you believe about the Bible, no matter what you believe about Christianity, that's not the point. The principle is this. We sat down and we got to know each other based on the foundation of the word, yes. But I asked that man so many questions about his family. He asked me so many questions about my family. I wanted to know how he grew up. What's your relationship with your mom? How do you believe that two people should enter into a relationship? How do you think that, longevity comes about? What is that? What's your philosophy on this, that, the other thing? I mean, I just asked him so many questions. And it wasn't because we just had hours and hours to sit in one setting, as I said before. It's over a period of time.
Right.
And then I got to fall in love with his mind, fall in love with the way he thinks, fall in love with the way that he relates to the world, fall in love with, for example, a very clear example is the way that he communicates his care and concern about others, his selflessness. Not for what I can get out of this man and can he take me to the most expensive restaurant? I mean, that is insane. And you know what? We say that most people don't believe that way. But when that's what's in the culture, then whether or not we want to believe that way, it kind of soaks into us. It soaks into our consciousness. It soaks into our way of being. And if everybody's doing it, then that must be the way that we're supposed to be doing it, right?
No.
And young people, like in their teens and their 20s, they don't think like we think. They're still forming their brains, their sensibilities are still forming. They still want to fit in. They still want to be a part. They want to be accepted. They don't want to be rejected. They don't want to be abandoned. And so they'll go along to get along. So yes, it does become a communal think culture. Like we're all going to think alike. And so I think that ends Paige's pen, but I just want to put out one more time the invitation. And I promise we'll treat you very well. We're very hospitable people here at We Are Your Aunties. And we want to invite someone who is 18 to 30-ish onto our platform to have this conversation, because it's just going to be so important going forward to have the information and to also gather information from you. So that's it for me. Aunties, do you have anything you want to add?
That was good. That was good.
And I'm sorry, we don't have that video available today, but we'll have it maybe next time. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I love that. The fact that you talked, you got to know each other, because your expectations, you won't be shocked when a person is doing something that you're like, what? I didn't know that. But did you take the time to get to know that person? And I love the fact that you fell in love with your husband's mind. So did I. And I understand that so much. That was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't say hopper certified for nothing. No, but what's wonderful is when you take time to get to know people, then when things come up that not necessarily you're not expecting, but you have enough love to allow them to be themselves.
I love that. Give them this space to be themselves. That makes all the difference in the world. It really does. So I'm going to ask DY to put that link up one more time in the comments, so that and it doesn't have to be you. It can be you or someone you know who's single, who's 18 to 30-ish. We would love to have you come on, reach out to us, and we will definitely bring you on and have a wonderful time. So there is the link in the comments right now. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to click, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and definitely ring the notification bell so that you'll know the next time we go live or put up a video. We are your aunties. You can tell us anything, but there's a way to say everything. And yes, we're going to put the link in the Facebook comments too. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.